The joke was meant to disappear into the noise of a crowded break room, the kind of throwaway line people laugh at and forget before the cake is even cut. But the smile that followed it did not fade. It stayed, calm and unreadable, like a door quietly unlocking. In that moment, Nathan Brooks felt something shift, the way air changes before a storm, and he had no idea that a single careless laugh on his birthday would reroute the rest of his life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet miracles that arrive when people least expect them, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this are for anyone who thinks ordinary days can still change everything. Nathan lived in a modest duplex on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio, the kind of place where the paint peeled a little every winter and the neighbors waved without asking questions. He was 36, a single father to a bright-eyed 6-year-old named Caleb, and the weight of the world seemed permanently settled on his shoulders. Mornings began before sunrise, packing lunches and tying shoelaces, and nights ended with exhaustion that felt older than his years. His wife, Rebecca, had passed away 3 winters earlier after a sudden illness, leaving Nathan to learn grief and parenting at the same time. He worked as a project coordinator at a mid-sized construction firm, steady but unglamorous work that paid the bills and little else. Birthdays, to him, were no longer celebrations. They were reminders of time moving forward, whether he was ready or not. At the office, his birthday was acknowledged the way most adult birthdays are, with a grocery store cake and polite applause. Nathan tried to smile through it, making jokes because that was easier than explaining the hollow feeling that followed him everywhere. When someone teased him about making a wish, he laughed and said something about wishing for a miracle or a spouse who could survive his schedule. It was then that he made the joke, a half-serious, half-deflecting comment tossed toward his boss, Margaret Collins, who happened to be standing nearby. He didn't mean it. Or maybe he did, in the distant, impossible way people joke about winning the lottery. Margaret Collins was not the kind of boss who laughed loudly or filled rooms with noise. She was 42, composed and known throughout the company for her sharp instincts and impossible standards. She had built the firm from a struggling operation into a respected regional name after inheriting it from her father. People respected her, some feared her, but no one claimed to truly know her. She dressed simply, spoke carefully, and carried herself like someone who had learned early not to rely on anyone else. When Nathan's joke landed in the room, she smiled, a small, controlled expression that no one else seemed to notice. Later that afternoon, she asked him to stop by her office before leaving. The invitation lingered in his mind all evening, unsettling him. Nathan assumed it was work-related, maybe about an upcoming project or a missed deadline. But when he stepped into her office, the atmosphere felt different, heavier somehow. The conversation that followed stayed professional on the surface, but there was an undercurrent Nathan couldn't name. Margaret acknowledged his work, his reliability, the way he never missed a deadline even when life clearly weighed him down. She mentioned his birthday again, wished him well, and then, with that same unreadable calm, extended an invitation that felt nothing like a joke anymore. That night, Nathan drove home in silence, his thoughts tangled. He tucked Caleb into bed, listened to him talk about school and superheroes, and felt the familiar ache of wanting to be everything his son needed. He almost declined the invitation in his mind a dozen times, convincing himself it was inappropriate or imagined. But loneliness has a way of pushing people forward when caution would rather hold them back. Margaret's home sat on a quiet street lined with old oak trees, the kind of neighborhood that felt insulated from the rest of the city. The house itself was elegant without being showy, warm light spilling from the windows. Inside, the evening unfolded gently, without expectations spoken aloud. They shared a simple meal, talked about work at first, then about life in careful steps. Nathan spoke about Caleb, about learning to cook meals for 1.5, about grief that never really leaves but changes shape over time. Margaret listened in a way that felt rare, not interrupting, not offering solutions. When she spoke, she revealed pieces of herself Nathan had never imagined, a childhood shaped by responsibility, a marriage that had ended quietly years ago, and a life structured so tightly there was little room for spontaneity. There was no dramatic turning point that night, no grand declaration. What changed was subtler. Nathan left feeling lighter, surprised by it. Over the following weeks, their interactions shifted, still professional but warmer, more human. Margaret noticed when Nathan looked tired and suggested flexibility in his schedule. Nathan noticed how often she stayed late, carrying burdens no one else saw. Slowly, carefully, they began meeting outside of work, sometimes for dinner, sometimes just walking through a park, learning each other in fragments. The real test came when life reminded Nathan why he had built walls so high. Caleb fell ill one night, a sudden fever that sent Nathan rushing to the emergency room. He missed an important presentation the next morning, something that would have once terrified him. Instead of reprimand, he received quiet support. Margaret covered the meeting herself, checked in later, and sent soup to his house without explanation. It was kindness without strings, and it undid him more than any romantic gesture ever could. As months passed, the relationship deepened, grounded not in fantasy but in shared reality. Margaret learned how to exist in the chaos of a child's life, attending school events quietly, helping with homework at the kitchen table. Nathan learned that strength could be gentle, that success didn't have to mean isolation. Together they faced whispered judgments at work, doubts from friends, and their own lingering fears. Nothing was easy, but it was honest. One evening, nearly a year after that birthday joke, Nathan stood in his living room watching Margaret help Caleb build a model airplane. The scene was ordinary and extraordinary all at once. He realized then that love had arrived not with fireworks but with consistency, patience, and courage. The past had not disappeared, but it no longer defined the future. If this story is resonating with you, if you've ever felt like life passed you by only to surprise you later, take a moment before the ending to leave a comment below. Share where you're watching from, or what part of the story spoke to you most. Your words matter more than you think. On Nathan's next birthday, there was no cake in a break room. There was a small gathering at home, laughter echoing off familiar walls, and a sense of belonging that felt earned rather than borrowed. The joke that once felt like a shield had become something real, built slowly on trust and kindness. Nathan understood then that second chances don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they arrive disguised as ordinary days, waiting for someone brave enough to say yes. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that hope can still grow in unexpected places, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep stories like this alive, reaching others who need to hear that it's never too late for a new beginning.